Yeah.
What's going on, comic friends? It's Ryan the Colossus Collector, and I am here once again with my co-host Dan from Dan's X-Men Comics on IG.
Thank you,
And
Ryan.
this is another episode 10 of X-Men Collector Chat. And we have the pleasure to be joined by Uncanny Derek Comics this evening. Derek, thanks for joining us. How's it going?
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan and Dan. And it's going great. I'm so happy to be here and talking X-Men and going to the late hours of the evening talking about X-Men and comic book collecting. And yeah, hyped.
Hell yes.
Nice.
I gotta say something. The green in your room.
What green?
There's green on your chair. There's green in the background. There is green on your shirt.
Yeah.
You like green?
Do I? Yeah, there's a little bit of green everywhere. I like the color green. Yeah, but if I just turn my camera slightly to show you my computer, but there's little colors of green there.
yeah.
Yeah, it's I like green. It's
Right.
not anything. It's not because I'm trying to make my wall invisible with a green screen or anything like that. It's just I like the color green, I guess.
Well, sorry, Colossus.
like the
Didn't mean to
whole-
start you off on the wrong foot there.
No, it's all good. Now I'm green here too, so all good. Eric is, of course, a fellow content creator, a fellow X-Men fan, obviously, since you're on X-Men Collector Chat, and he's also a fellow Canadian, me being one as well. And it was somebody I've been thinking about hopefully having on the channel for a little while, and we finally got to make it happen. So usually kind of kick off our conversations just to kind of get a little bit of an idea of where your love of X-Men kind of started, your origin of becoming a fan. It's often very similar to, I feel like, a lot of us, but it's nice to just kind of get that context before we dive into getting to know you more as an X-Men fan.
Sure, yeah. And I'll make it a little personal too. So I was born in mid '80s, so grew up with the cartoon, which was really what kickstarted it. My first X-Men book was X-Men Adjective List X-Men. Oh man, I'm already forgetting the number. First issue or first appearance of Sync was in it. It was the Phalanx Covenant book. Anyway, I saw that because I recognized Sabretooth on the cover. There really wasn't any other X-Men in there. It was the issue with because they were setting up Generation X at the time. So it was Banshee, White Queen, Jubilee, Cinch, and Sabretooth was in it. So like I didn't really know what was going on. But I got that book. I was just excited to have it. They had a gatefold cover, and I was like, "Oh, this is so neat! This new medium to me." And that was kind of it. And I went into the TV show. Enjoyed that a lot more, and I would pick up the odd X-Men book when I would see it at the local 7-Eleven or Avondale. Then, as I got into high school, so this is now like 2000, I started getting into X-Men a little bit more, and I started to understand the bigger scope and feeling of X-Men, and that it was a group of misfits or a minority, and I understood the social aspect, but I really started to relate with them. And I don't know if you guys feel this, but I grew up in the 90s being a big fan of Star Wars, being a fan of comic books, and boy, was that not cool. It was, you got picked on for it, you were just relentlessly bullied for it, and that was how I was raised. No, not raised, but I grew up in that atmosphere, and it's all cool now, and I think it's fantastic. But I grew up in this, being made fun of, enjoying the things that I like. And so I kind of found myself a little bit in the X-Men there because they were the outcasts of society, and I kind of felt as an outcast. And I'm into heavy metal music, and that's kind of the same vein, so to speak. So that's how I really grew to appreciate X-Men. And then, of course, the stories and the characters, I started relating to more characters, and everything took off from there. But it kind of was because of how I felt at the time, and X-Men was kind of that extended family, so to speak, to that I could reach out to and have as my own. So
Yeah, if you didn't collect Pogs, you were nothing.
well, I collected Pogs. The Gargoyle run,
I totally get it. I mean, although I wasn't like a hardcore comic collector as a kid, I definitely know that what you mean by like that kind of any kind of nerd culture kind of stuff was sort of not as accepted by our generation of kids and youth and stuff. So some people were fans kind of like hidden in the shadows, or you were an
Yeah.
outright fan, and maybe you had a little bit of that outcast stigma. But totally get it. Just want to acknowledge a bunch of people in the chat before we keep going. Got Bill Kelly, longtime X-Men fan. Thanks for watching, Bill. Nice to have you along. Our friend Hayden, next gen collector, 2 Canadians and 1 American. That's right. We've got Richard Westfall.
I got a cup.
Our go-to
Dear Lord.
watcher, always in the chat. Thanks for being here, Richard. What else we got? Bill Kelly said his first books were Fall of the Mutants.
Awesome.
Very fun story. And we also got Doug Botkin. Hey, everybody. Doug, thanks for stopping in tonight.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And
got Joe down here.
Joe Gottlieb. Derek is cool. I agree.
I paid for that advertisement and it worked.
Word.
Yeah, so like I also gotta say, like, your knowledge of X-Men's could probably like lap Dan and I many times over. But it's actually great to have someone with as much knowledge as you have to learn from in terms of just books we haven't read, storylines we haven't read. I've only been personally reading X-Men for the last few years, although my fandom of X-Men goes all the way back, which I've covered many times, back to the cartoons, back to the 90s as well. And then but yeah, my comic reading is shallow, but I'm getting there. I'm reading more and more. And then Dan's a longtime X-Men fan, but he's kind of within the Claremont era. That's his jam.
Very
right?
focused.
You got so many cool Mark Jeweller's books because of that. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
What can I say?
What do we got?
It's out of control.
It is. It actually is.
Bill, dude, X-Men 100, friggin' awesome. There you go for your Dave Cockrum covers.
Awesome.
We were talking Dave Cockrum earlier.
Yes.
So, what's your X-Men collection look like? Like, what do you collect? I know that's kind of probably a loaded question, but like, what's kind of your collection now, and where do you what are your goals for? Like, where do you want to get to?
So like I really just collect the comics. I had the odd action figure and whatnot, but really it's majority in the comics. My goal is to collect the entire Uncanny run from 1 to 544, including the annuals and giant size. I do not have giant size. I do have all the annuals. And I just need 37 more books in a row.
In a row?
No, it's not true. That was a Clerk's reference. That was really not. 37 more issues out of that 544 to have the entire run complete. So I'm almost there. But it's still like the big books. I have X-Men 1 on the wall there, so that's done and out of the way. That's easy.
You do.
That's easy. Everything else is difficult.
That's
so the last few like big books I need to get is X-Men 4, which is First Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. I need X-Men 12, which is First Juggernaut, and then I have 49, which is the first Polaris. So nobody argue with me, but everybody obviously pays more for issue 50 because of that cover. So those are the last big books I would say I need of the run.
Did you get a 94? I remember recently.
I do not have 94.
Okay, I remember you mentioning that in your latest like X-Men haul.
Yeah, I have 95 all the way to 544.
Cool.
I have 92 and 93.
Yes.
So my goal is to have like the reprints are kind of on the back burner, the 67 to 93. I just really want to get those main books done, and then once I'm done, the goal is then to upgrade the books as I come along. So like my current collection, like I'm not looking for the best grades of books, so to speak. If I can get a book at a low grade, or if I can get a big book at a low grade, I'm okay with that. Relatively speaking, depends how the book looks. But the plan is once it's all done, I'm just gonna start upgrading it all. So, and that X-Men, I don't know if the glare shows it, but it's a 2.5 X-Men #1.
Damn,
So I'd like,
that's huge.
yeah.
I'm in the market for one of those. That's what I'm.
And speaking of X-Men One owners, Joshua, Sasquatch Comics in the chat right there.
He's a similar. He's got it all. He's got the whole run.
The whole run. One of like.
I think
how is whole run?
The entire run of X-Men.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
I want to say he's at least like read it all.
Yeah.
You know, if not owning every single issue. Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
That's the big kahuna on Ryan's menu.
Yeah, you made a video about trying to get that. Was it the end of this year or was it the end of next year? I know you had that progress bar.
So like I do a goal, like I did a goal video for the year at the start of the year. And then I did another video a few months back, kind of updating on my building of my X-Men fund and where I was at on that. So still working on that, but it's a little more difficult for me for you because we're in Canada. So you know, I might be sitting at like 6K, but that's like not even 5K American, right? So it's a little bit of a tease sometimes to look at your fund and it's like, oh, I'm getting close, and then it's like, oh, I'm not really that close, right?
And the prices are still coming down. Like the whole COVID bubble really like made prices just insane. And I've been watching. I have the call it CLZ app here in Canada, and I've been watching my book just drop thousands of dollars in value over the past 4 or 5 years. I'm just like, should I have sold it over COVID? Because I would have made an incredible profit. I bought this book back in 2012, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, so, that was like, 2012. That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's good.
It is very good. Yeah. But I was like, I should have sold it then. But I mean, who knew, right? That was the
truth.
Yeah, it's tough when you can see that number right there if you have it all in that.
Yeah, so it's something I got to consider because, like, I was really thinking about like, I'd love to get like a 3.5 to a 4, but now I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to pull that off. Like, so now I'm rethinking. Like, I always said, kind of like, I'm fine with anything between a 1.5 and a 4, as long as it presents really well. So I'm kind of like trying to bring my expectation back to that. So anywhere between a 1.5 now and probably like a 3 is kind of my target, but it's got to look really nice.
Yeah, are you looking for it graded or raw?
Graded.
Great. Yeah, that's always the difficult part, of course.
I just don't trust it raw. Like, you know, it's, you know, not even that sellers would try to scam you or whatever, but some sellers just don't even realize like a book is restored or it's got a page missing and stuff like that. So like, it would have to be like a really, really trusted seller who knows what they're doing to get it raw. And then I don't know, like, also I just like the thought of having to send it down to CGC and all that stuff.
It's fun to worry about that stuff, man. It's all part of the game.
Mikey G. It is fun, except if it was an X-Men one.
Like, what up?
We'll get an insurance ship it out.
I think if it was an X-Men one, honestly, like what I would do is I'd hold on to it raw, and then I'd maybe like bring it down there myself and like do it in person.
You did have it in a briefcase, attached by a handcuff,
or at least pick it up from there.
I mean, we can talk. Sorry,
I was just gonna say shipping back from CGC is like crazy. So yeah, but we'll see. It's all about what comes, right? Like what opportunity to buy it. I want to do it this year, but I also got to keep like thinking like it's not Doesn't have to be this year. Doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it's really like there's a lot of pressure when you make a goal for like one book and you still have to save all your money. So like you can't just take advantage of opportunities that come. You have to like put those off and you're hunting
Yeah.
this book. And you know it's like common enough if you wait long enough, you will get an awesome deal. You will find the perfect book. But when you have that like laser focus and you know you can't buy anything else, there's almost a pressure to just get it over with, settle to be able to get back into just like the no sweating part, you know?
That would be a good video.
Um,
Um,
there's some pretty reputable dealers though that you could have them ship for you because they would do like I'm not going to name any names right now. We can talk about it after, but there's a few like pressers that are exist here that you could
yep.
I think you could safely give the book to and then have them deal with it because they're also insured and like that
Yep.
would be the safer route to go.
Yeah, Jeff from Comic Spa, who's a friend with a lot of our friends, and I met him at Terrificon. He'd be a guy I would definitely trust with it. It's just like putting it in the mail and shipping and stuff.
Of course.
I'm in, and I'm actually not usually like worried about that stuff. Like I've never been burned, like knock on wood, shipping anything in the comic hobby, and but it's
First time for everything.
It's the first time for everything, and X-Men 1 would not be the time to
No.
have that happen. So, really don't want that to happen. But we'll see. Again, another thing I'm keeping in mind. Sorry, I don't want this conversation to be all about my hunt for an X-Men 1, but buying it in the US and then shipping it back here means a big customs fee as well. So
Yes.
I'd love to buy it here if possible. That's what happened with my GSX1. I bought it here, avoided the custom fees.
Yeah.
But that just limits my opportunities, right? So
Yeah.
it will have to see how it goes.
Duty in Canada with comics, nobody understands it until you start doing it. You're like, oh man, what did I do? I didn't foresee this. I
Yeah.
remember getting an order
Right.
from my comic shop, and it was just like a couple hundred, like it was a couple $100 extra for taxes. And I'm like,
Oh,
seriously, what? Why?
wow.
Because it's books.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
It was worth it though.
can
But
hit you hard because all of a sudden you get a note like, well, Derek, you would know, but like when something comes that has a big customs fee, often what they'll do is they just leave a little notice in your mailbox that we have to go pick it up at the post office to pay the fees, and it's always says on there, it's like, oh, $175
yeah,
customs fees. And I mean, not that's if I'm buying like that's when it gets up to more expensive books, but yeah, like you're dropping like 15, 20, $30 on custom fees depending on the order. It definitely adds up. Lots of great people in the chat. We've got Eric Tide Quest, and we've got Paul Comics, Christopher Parker, Mikey G. Thanks everybody for tuning in. So you're doing the Uncanny run. Is are you also like buying current runs, like the current storylines? Like, are you I know you were in our Council of X the other night, and you were in the chat, going back and forth. So it sounds like you're reading the new From the Ashes storyline. Just wondering how you're feeling about it so far, and do you kind of like pick up a certain amount of issues every week type of thing?
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with Marvel more than anything. So I am only reading 2 From the Ashes books, and it's X Factor and Uncanny X-Men. And so I actually stopped reading X-Men shortly after Avengers vs. X-Men. That was what, 2013, 2014 maybe. The Fear Itself. I was reading, like, it was right after Schism. I was reading X-Men regularly in all the books, New Mutants, Astonishing X-Men, Uncanny, X-Men Legacy, like all the books. And then, editorial really messed up some stuff. Cyclops was right, everybody. All right. Cyclops was right. And I actually had to take a step away. I was like, this is too much. Yeah. Oh, I got
Yeah,
grievances,
that's
Nate.
what
I
I
got
mean.
grievances. I the whole it was post Siege as well, Dark Avengers. Like I was reading all of it, guys, like all of it, and editorial was just doing huge tangents with this AVX stuff, and the characters weren't who they were. Greg Land kept getting more work on Uncanny, and they ended up canceling the series. And I every time Greg Land's on anything, I just bite my tongue. But anyway, um, so took a step away and I was reading X Men through like CBR reviews, so to speak. And then, the whole Jonathan Hickman was coming on with this Moira X thing. And I'm like, oh, cool, I'll check it out to see what this is all about. Saw the retcon for Moira and I'm like, I like retcons, but I don't like this one. So I jumped ship on that. And then I heard Krakoa ended, and I was like, typical editorial fashion. Let's just pretend it didn't happen at Marvel. And From the Ashes is kind of starting up, and I'm like, all right, this is my new jumping on point, and I'm liking what I'm reading so far. But I've been burned so hard in the past with
Mhm.
reading everything, and most of it either being left out and not done, or just unanswered questions, or just it becomes too much. And
Mhm.
so I really decided I'm just gonna hunker down, read the two. If something else is like strongly recommended, I'll jump into it. But for the most part, just Uncanny and X Factor.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to save yourself from buying a ton of titles. I mean, we talked about it all on Friday, but um yeah, I don't plan on sticking with all of them, but just at the beginning I kind of want to have a good taste of everything to just kind of like really figure out what I'm liking. And I feel like I do feel like the adjectiveless X-Men and the uncanny X-Men are going to be pretty linked. So I
Yeah,
feel like those are probably definitely the ones I'm gonna stick with, and then we'll see about the rest.
I'm irked already that there's a crossover, and like by issue 8, it's like,
Yeah,
come on,
yeah,
like let the books breathe already. But
make
anyway,
that money.
no, I'm not buying the adjective. Let's just
No,
protect this.
I'm just saying that's what Marvel's
Yeah, I
working
know.
for,
Marvel
right?
can
So,
eat me.
um, th- uh, what one thing on the X Factor? What made you wanna, or like what made you pick the X Factor title out
Hmm.
of all the other ones? Just
Greg Land covers. No, it was Mark Russell, the writer. So I really enjoyed Mark Russell's writing. He's a very humorous writer. Um, I first learned of him from his retelling of the Bible with a book called God is Disappointed in You. That was Mark Russell writing it, and Shannon Wheeler, who did Too Much Coffee Man, he did the artwork in it. And I fell in love with Mark Russell's work. Obviously, I think he won an Eisner for Puss in Boots, if I'm not mistaken. But he's a well accredited writer, and I've always loved X Factor, whether it's the Simonson run or Peter David's stuff. I've just always been attached to the X Factor series. So the fact that we're getting X Factor and it's a writer that I actually really strongly like, then I'm all for it. And I just buy the variant covers that don't have Greg Land.
I just bought an entire minty fresh run of the original volume 1 of X Factor, like
Nice.
the entire thing, for
So
pretty good.
dramatic.
I know, but I haven't read it all. I've read a good chunks of it because I read a lot of the old stuff through Omnibus, and then
Yep.
they get collected in there. But yeah, I'll have to keep reading more of it
Oh,
as
it's
time
so
goes.
dramatic. But that's what I love about the newest X Factor, though. It's like Mark Russell is the whole story is very meta. It's very in your face and very blatant what it's doing, but it's also still like reeking of this drama from the '80s as well. And this, I'd go off in huge tangents about this thing, but yeah.
Well, that's what we're here for.
Oh,
So,
right,
Tangents
excellent.
are welcome. Um, I guess what just some basics wanted to find out. So like what are like your favorite what are some of your favorites when it comes to X-Men? Like favorite character, favorite title, or not title, like issue, storyline, that sort of stuff.
Ooh, so I favorite characters. So my number one is Angel. Warren Worthington III. Um, and
That's an
probably,
off the board choice. I got.
yeah, I know, right? I've always been a fan of Angel, whether it be him as Angel or Archangel.
Mm.
Then Multiple Man is probably second, followed by likely, man, who would be a third? Just asking to pick my favorite children, eh? You didn't ask me to pick three, so I'll just stop at the two.
Yeah.
That's fine. Definitely an X Factor guy, though.
Well,
Those are
yeah,
both X Factor deep
this
cut.
is
Well,
true.
not
I
deep
guess,
cut.
yeah, if I choose somebody who was non-X Factor, no, like I like Monet too, so she was a Gen X, and Banshee, yeah,
I like
Banshee's
that.
definitely up there. So
Sweet.
oddball characters, and then
Definitely.
favorite issue. Ugh. I mean, when we get into the books that we've picked out later, I'll talk about that a little bit more.
What about era then? Like, what's your favorite era of
This
any?
is going to be probably a little controversial, because it's pretty new, and I really enjoyed the whole Utopia era. And the reason being is that I love the X-Men with their backs against the wall like that. And it was, some people, I understand the criticism that people felt like it dragged a little too long. And admittedly, the whole Hope thing was a little anticlimactic. But I love the whole post House of M stuff and the X-Men just getting screwed regularly. And of course that bled into Uncanny X Force, which is probably one of the best comic book runs of all time by Rick Remender.
Mhm.
That is hands down one of the best stories ever. If you can pick up the omnibus of that, that is one thing that like every comic book, not just X-Men, comic book fan should read, because that is just brilliant storytelling and brilliant artwork. Jerome Lapina and did most of it, and oh, who's the guy that does all the faces really well? What's his name? Phil Noto.
I've heard nothing but good things about Uncanny X Force. It was I did a couple years last year. I think it was last year, or maybe it was the year before. I think it was 2 years ago. I did kind of like a March Madness omnibus bracket on Instagram
Okay.
before I started my YouTube channel. It was on IG, and I just kind of I made a bracket of like all these omnibus, and X Factor did really well. It like went pretty far, and a lot of people said a lot of really good things about it.
Yeah, it's
But I
really
have not
good.
read it, so it's on my list of things. I should get the omnibus though. I don't know if it's in print right now.
Uh, I don't know. That I don't know, but you should get it regardless.
Dr. Plagueis, you are beautiful, sir.
Thank you. Too kind. I don't know. Beautiful.
You're beautiful,
Handsome.
Yeah, you're beautiful, man. I mean, come on.
beautiful. Um, and you had some other questions in there, I think, but
No,
yeah,
it was
Utopia.
just faves.
Yeah,
Discussing
favorite
some.
Utopia.
Who?
Yes.
I want to ask something.
Yeah,
Oh,
please.
You had said you had mentioned like your X Factor team, but
mhm.
I don't think I know much about your favorite characters in general on the standard X-Men squad. And I loved those oddball characters that you chose, and I wanted to hear more about your favorite characters in the on
Uh,
some of the more like with the whole genre of the
okay.
X-Men characters.
So staying away from X Factor
I mean,
character.
I
Okay.
you can carry them in there. Yeah.
No. So my other favorites. Uh, I've had a little bit more time to think about it. Chamber, John O'Starsmore. I've always appreciated. That's actually really one of the first issues of X Men. When I started really reading the stories. Joe Casey's run, that was issue 395 to I think like 415 or something. Um, he did the Poptopia 4 issue series, and that was very chamber heavy. And Chamber, I really related to, because he is, you know, he doesn't have a face. He's just all plasma and fire. And I think he is visually very cool. But and if you've read like the first issues of Gen X, I always remember, I'm going to paraphrase this, but there's nobody else here but us monsters, is I think the line that he says to, I think he says it to Penance in it. And it was just like the self defeating attitude he has, and it just how he kind of pulls himself up, and how he went from Gen X and this teenager to getting put onto the main team. Just how he brought himself up, and it was not it was over nearly a few decades, but he brought himself up from that. I always appreciated that kind of character development, although it was slow growth, and nobody really seems to know what to do with somebody like him. But Chambers one of them. Um, Probably Domino, I would say. Uh, and I'd say more the like she's always been there, and I think that's kind of that's also why I like Angel. By the way, he's just always there. You can always count on Domino and always count on Angel. Whether and
Interesting.
Angel's always financially you can count on him, but Domino is always just if you need something done, Domino's gonna be there. She's gonna do it right. She's gonna do it her way, but she has just this neat fluke. Well, obviously, it's her mutant power. It's just uh, being fluky with everything. Um,
Yeah.
but she just is always such a powerhouse, and she, especially again in back in X Force and then later into Utopia, she was always just like, Domino, we need stuff done, do it, and she's just like, I'm off, I'll do it. I don't know.
Yeah, you're really digging deep on these characters, man. Like, okay, let me say, little controversy, little pushback here. All right, you ready for this? Angel,
Hmm.
all he does is flies around and
Yeah.
dodges shit.
All right, here we go. See that man there with that bazooka against Magneto? No, all right, that wasn't a great idea. So the reason why I like Angel, because I know that that's such a weird pick, and I actually again prefer Angel over Archangel. I mean, Archangel obviously gave a whole,
I like
um,
Archangel.
yeah, because he's cool. He's
Yeah.
way
He finally
cooler than
gets
Angel.
cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he has a lot more drama to him and all that. But the reason why I like Angel is because he's the unsung hero in the background. And so if you think of the original five, like, yeah, you
Yeah,
have obviously Beast, Iceman, Marvel Girl, and Cyclops, and
yeah.
all four of them are doing stuff all the time. And Angel's just this rich playboy sitting around with Candy Southern in the background,
Mhm,
and he's just partying it up. But when you take him away from the '05 and you see him as the character that he is, he's always heavily relied on. He's always able to show up when needed. He's
mhm.
always been a financial backer of the X-Men, so he's always been there to help out when needed. And he still is like, yeah, he does recon and all that, which is ultimately what his power is. Like, you fly up ahead and look ahead for us, Angel. Thanks. And can you,
Yeah.
have sex with Husk? I guess if you're into that weird. What was that? That was Terry Austin. No, Terry Austin's the inker. Chuck Austin storyline. She lives with angels. Nobody likes that storyline. Um, he just is a character who I feel doesn't get the appreciation he deserves because he gets looked upon as this rich playboy, which
Yeah.
admittedly early on he's kind of appeared that way, but he's still a human being with feelings. And I think that especially when you get into his relationship with Psylocke, um, you really start to get a better feel for that character. Even in the '80s X Factor, he's just kind of this whiny man, and that Archangel
Yeah,
in
yeah.
that series doesn't give him any credence either. But outside of that, he is a character who's always combating himself, not the Archangel persona, but he's battling himself and what other people feel and perceive him to be. And I just think that as a somebody who enjoys good writing, there's a lot of untapped potential there too.
Mhm.
Ann Nesenti did a giant size X-Men recently that was all Angel focused, and I really think she encapsulated Angel perfectly in that giant size, and that was what only I think in August it came out. Um, so yeah, that's kind of I can ramble a bit for,
That's
but
cool.
anyway.
So it sounds like you just like the human side of him as far as like the way that the symbol that he is to the team as opposed to like powers aside.
Yeah, it's not powers, and yeah, the defenders as well. Like he wasn't just an X-Men, he was in the defenders. Uh yeah, he is a human being. Well, he's a mutant.
Yeah.
He's not a human.
Yeah.
But he has real character to him, and it's just he's never had a really good writer.
That's the thing. I've just never really. It's never spoke. Well, the thing is, I've read probably the fewest out of all you guys, but I just haven't seen the story yet where I've like fallen in love with him, I guess.
Sure. So I would say if you wanted to get into Angel, which I mean, I don't even know why I'm saying this. Is no, you
No, I'd
seriously
love to
get
hear
into
this.
Angel.
Yeah.
I would definitely say getting that giant size is that giant size X-Men one just recently that was released. That would be a good
This year?
starter. Yeah, and
Okay.
Nesenti wrote it.
Right.
She was editor of X-Men back in the 80s. And then I would say I think it's Uncanny X-Men 316. It's the cover of Psylocke and him on a building. There's just a lot of development there.
I'll
And
revisit
I
that.
mean, Remender's Uncanny X-Force, really the X-Force starting with Kyle and Yost onwards, like it does deal a little bit with his darkness persona and the Archangel stuff, but it's still a lot of Angel in there. And then the later Uncannies too. I think it was Matt Fraction was writing it at that point. Yeah. Anyway,
that's enough. I'm definitely not going to go past that. So thank you.
Very good. Yeah, I'm just using it for his money. Again, he's paying me to say this.
Dude, yeah, your knowledge is very strong as far as the between the different stories, especially because that is where I just completely lose track when it comes to reading different series.
It's I don't know it all either. Like it.
Well, you do a good job of pretending you do.
Sure,
that's the case.
but like when we eventually show these books here, if you ask me what happens, then I'm not going to be able to tell you. Like I can tell you some things, but like my mind isn't that sharp. I don't know. Sure.
Well, I appreciate having you around.
But you definitely have a good overall knowledge of like beyond where I think a lot of our knowledge kind of falls off, right? Like I know little bits. Like I know Chuck Austin is famous for the Azazel storyline with Nightcrawler, and then like the Utopia stuff is fall of or after the House of X, and then I know that sort of some of that part of that era is where Nightcrawler sacrifices himself with what's his face, Bastion. And that all came to that kind of came all on my radar after X-Men 97 and stuff. So like I pick stuff up, but like I haven't read it all. And I like talking about it because I like some of that stuff does actually kind of register in my mind. And I'm like, oh, okay, I remember Derek was talking about that, or Mike, like that whole thing with the Azazel and stuff. Like I know all that from watching Mike's channel and his hatred for that storyline. So, yeah, just this helps fill in a lot of the holes I have in my X-Men knowledge until I finally read all that stuff. So
this is bias though. So like I'm probably still the only person who's like, yeah, Angel, and everybody else is like, I don't see it, Derek.
Hey man, it's your thing. I like Archangel. I like Archangel a lot, but yeah, Angel, I'd probably need to read more.
For sure.
What up?
What's on, Kamikaze?
Brandon.
Everybody's here.
Lots in the chat tonight. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Hey, Ned, a great question.
Yeah.
If you had to assemble an X-Men and or X-Factor team, who's your ideal lineup?
So I have this already. Let me just pull it up. No, it's I haven't. Where is this? Give me a second. Dream X-Men team. Here it is. All right, so it is Mirage, Danny Moonstar, Angel, Monet, Chamber, Multiple Man, Domino, Boom Boom or Meltdown, Phantom X, Psylocke, and Banshee.
Dude,
the deepest cut
right here.
That feels like not an X-Men team. That feels definitely more of like a X-Force or an X-Factor.
That is your
Marvel, get me on your books. I'll write you something incredible. All right.
That's never going to be the main title. That's going to definitely be an offshoot title. But that's
one shot.
Dude, that's great. That's great. I love that.
They're gonna have to come. They're the team that comes to rescue the main team when they.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just a bunch of. It's just like the land of reject toys. This is just like
yeah.
all these X-Men. Just like, really, Boom Boom's here to help you. Sure, this is the best you can
Unlikely
muster.
squad.
But I
Yeah,
kind of like that. I like that. I
Yeah, I
like
do.
to have a fresh joy for all those characters that don't really get talked about as much. So
yeah, that's fair. They're definitely not the cream of the crop, so to speak.
would you say that that's kind of just like your do you gravitate generally like out even outside of X-Men like just to like kind of like those underused characters or the like
The
characters that
underdog.
aren't the underdog characters?
Yeah, it's the underdog
Great.
story, and yeah, absolutely, for sure, for sure.
Cool. So I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about being a collector in Canada, just to like kind of veer off a little bit from X-Men. But Dan, before we get into that, if you have any other kind of questions or thoughts before I kind of like sort of just detour a little bit off of X-Men.
No, no problem. No, I'll take me
Okay, cool.
off. You guys go.
So like we were already kind of touching upon it a little bit, but just like what are kind of like your what are your feelings as like a collector in Canada? Like, do you find? I'm sure they're probably similar to me. Just like, what are like your else? Like, do you have good LCSs in your area that you like to hunt at, or do you find that to be a little bit of a struggle? Do you like struggle with the exchange rate, things like that? I was just wondering what your perspective is as a Canadian comic collector. And
Oh,
maybe you have like some tips or something that I could pick up on.
yeah, yeah, it sucks. So my LCS, I did a video about the a little while ago about 300,000 comics in the basement, and that was at my LCS. And I went through a lot of those boxes, and there wasn't much the good stuff to pick from, but I didn't go through all the books. They're slowly pulling up the books from their basement. Actually, I got this giant size man thing there from them 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, because they found it in the basement. So they're still
Well,
uncovering.
make Derek big here so I can
Yeah.
look at that. Thanks.
Magic wand, make my Derek grow. All right. Um, yeah. So this giant. I'll just pull off the wall. This giant. We're talking about X-Men today. Here's giant size man thing. So I got this off of my LCS just recently, but they found that in their basement there. Um, but it's really difficult to get anything in Canada, and I do like pre-code horror, and I do like the Golden Age stuff as well with along with my X-Men, but to get anything Golden Age in Canada is extremely difficult. And I learned like a few months ago the reason being to that, and I don't know if you guys know this, is because during World War II, Canada and the U.S. had to stop unimportant imports and exports to one another. And
Mhm.
so comic books were on that list. And so Golden Age books in Canada really aren't a thing because we didn't import them during the war. And what ended up happening, and I have this Weird Science on the far end there. That's Weird Science is by EC Comics. But that book there is a Canadian edition or a Canadian variant. And it was published by Superior Comics, which is a Canadian publisher who got licensing rights for EC to reprint their books or to print their books. So it's not so much it is a variant, but it's also like kind of a second printing, but it's the Canadian edition. So it's this weird ambiguous book that exists, and it's solely because um, these books didn't exist, or the true Golden Age books didn't exist in Canada. So finding any of those books is always difficult. That's where the cons always come into play, or
Mhm.
hopes that some neighbor down the street passes away that inherits you get to inherit their collection or something. I don't know. It's tough.
I like
It's
to also ask Canadians: is it easy for you to come across um, Canadian price variants?
yeah. Yeah, it is.
It's definitely
But
easier than the US.
yeah, it is there a Canadian price variant for a Mark Jewelers book? I don't know. Uh,
I
No,
don't
I
think
don't
so.
think there is. I
No.
it
don't think
wouldn't
there's
be.
pence variants or Canadian variants for it. Um, but yeah, the Canadian variants are there, but it's funny because the demand or the desire for those books exists depending on where you're from. Because I see a Canadian price variant, I'm like, is that like, eh? But American sees it and they go, "Oh man, that's great." But if I see a newsstand, I'm more inclined to grab that over a direct. But some people may want the direct over newsstand, and it just depends on how you collect. But yeah, the Canadian price variants are more common here, but are they in as demand? Not particularly, but that's me.
Kamikaze, fellow Canadian, he's said that he finds the Canadian pre-code horror variants are actually highly sought after. So
Oh,
that's
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I definitely would scoop them up if I had them or if I had the option to grab them, but they're just not that common, I find.
yeah.
Um,
Well, they were I mean, they're probably low print runs given our
mhm.
population and
Yeah.
everything. The demand
sure.
wasn't very
Well, we
high.
want them here in the States. So if you find them, you know where to send them.
Noted.
Probably a fair amount of them in the States. To be
Oh,
honest.
yeah, that's true. There are.
Yeah, and there's only a handful of websites here in Canada that I find are decent to purchase from. Like there's no Canadian equivalent of mycomicshop.com on in Canada. There are some websites and companies that are close to that, but they don't they're close, but they don't come close.
Yeah,
Thanks, Aussie, for the stats.
it's the same. I mean, even just like there's not as many sellers from Canada like that selling like those big books like the Grails that I was we were talking about earlier, like an
Yeah,
X-Men
and
one, like there's lots of consignment shops, there's a lot of IG sellers, um
but like you have
but
to know specifically who those ones
but
are, and
I
so
only
then
know I only know of like one or
yeah,
two
where
sellers
where otherwise, like in the
on
States, it's super
IG
scary
that I would
that
get
they're
from. I
U.S.
mean, there's obviously lots of sellers up here. It's just
Yeah,
that's a big spot where I would look for those big grails, and yeah, there's not as many of those like like alley. I forget the
Ali Collectibles.
alley
Those are
collectibles or the diamond one, or I'm butchering all the names. All the consignment shops.
yeah.
Grails, all that sort of stuff. But and I mean, there's some good whatnot sellers. Kamikaze, another whatnot seller I've bought from with good prices. But I mean, trying to find those really
always good
pricey
books
books,
too. He's
those
got.
pricey books in Canada can be a bit of a struggle.
Mhm.
Oh, 20% more of the FMV of the US ones. All right. Interesting.
They went for 20% more than FMV,
And
huh?
again, I wonder if they're going to US buyers. Like, is it like with those stats there, are they US purchasers doing it? Are there some
I
Canadians
mean,
in
we
there? Like
care
that
about them. We care about them.
the only thing you guys care
Like,
about with
there's
Canada
a
are comic
premium.
books. Is there price variance outside of that?
Ah,
But even on the Canadian price variance, like you could find them, but they're not like raining
like there's
down.
more of them
You know what I
there.
mean?
Right,
There's
right,
definitely more of
Yeah.
them here, right?
right.
If you went to a shop that has a lot of back issues, you definitely find some CPVs for sure. But
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But North American issues are more prevalent than Canadian
yeah,
price variants as far as like those specific issues that
yeah,
have.
it's not like you go into a long box and you're pulling out like the majority are Canadian price.
Right, right. Okay.
Cool. So yeah, I mean that's really all I wanted to talk about in terms of Canadian stuff. Just like to know if I'm not, if I have someone who feels the same pains and aches as a Canadian
Dude, it sucks.
collector as I do. So, why don't we jump into some books? I mean, we did bring some books for tonight. Um, I kind of came up with an idea that seemed rather uncomplicated in my head when I came up with it, but then it ended up being a little bit more complicated to explain to these guys. But I will do better job in voicing it on screen. Basically, what we did was we each had an assignment to bring top 5 books from an artist And Derek's brought top 5 X-Men books and cover art by Dave Cockrum. Dan got his top 5 of John Byrne's X-Men covers, and then I had the field to pick from, essentially. So the top 5 uh, covers by artists other than Dave Cockrum and John Byrne within kind of the Claremont era up to Jim Lee. That was essentially the assignment. I know I probably could have come up with something a little simpler than that, but I like to make things difficult. So why don't we kick it off with our guest and with Dave Cockrum, who kicked off this era as well.
Sure.
Derek, why don't you take us through some books?
Okay. So you said, just to clarify, you said I could get away with using a what's it called? An honorable mention.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna do that first, I guess.
Like I said, there's no real rules on my channel. You could have just gone rogue, and it would have been fun.
Well, I don't think he did any rogue books. Oh, that was funny.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
I'm so funny. Okay. So,
I like it.
my honorable mention is going to go to X-Men number 126.
Oh, very nice.
And I just love the team busting out of the page like this here and in search of Mutant X, aka Proteus. Yeah, I just enjoy Cockrum's characters and how they have so much action to them. And yeah, this is my honorable mention. So there we go. 56.4,
Great
guys.
book.
These are
Great cover.
Yeah, but it's not my top 5. So at number 5, we have X-Men number 164, which is the first appearance of Binary, or Ms. Marvel turning into Binary. And the reason why I love this cover is I remember when I first saw the cover and I hadn't read the story. I'm like, who's this? Why is this even a big deal? Is that Phoenix looking different? I didn't understand what was going on. Obviously, now I know who it is, but I really dug the background. It's just the swirling galaxy that ends up the center of her hand is that center of the galaxy going on, and just the whole swirl of that background with the X-Men standing in shock and awe. I just really appreciated that cool attention to detail. And of course, Cockrum designing science fiction costumes is really his MO. So again, I appreciate the design there of
It's
Binary.
funny, it's those background details could so easily be glazed over,
Yeah.
like you just get so focused on the character in the foreground and like maybe some of the characters behind, but like that whole like honestly, I mean, I probably knew it was there, but I've never really thought about it. And
Yeah.
it is a really nice detail to that cover.
Yeah. So
And
that's
of
my
course
number
that's
5.
Cockrum's like return, where like when he started the era, then he went away, and then he came back to the run. That's some of his later stuff that he did on X-Men.
Yeah. And
So
so
great.
are we doing like 5? Everybody does 5, or do you want me just to go through them?
Yeah, I think we just do your
All
5
right.
thing.
So 104 is my number 4.
Oh,
Um,
baby.
and this is the homage to X-Men number 1, but with the new X-Men involved there.
Mhm.
So instead of flying in with a bazooka, storm shooting lightning. Instead of swinging in on a trapeze, Nightcrawler's swinging in on a hook, I guess. I don't know. And then you got Cyclops still doing his things. Wolverine being the Iceman on the cover, and then Colossus being the Marvel girl in the background, just kind of, hey guys, wait for me. But I just enjoyed the homage of the cover. I think it's a very bright color cover. Just everybody doing something, and yeah, just really sharp, exciting cover involving
It's
the
great.
really core X-Men team there. So
It it's fun, like not to disparage the original X-Men 1 cover, but in a perfect world, that's how Kirby should have drawn Magneto on that original
yeah,
cover, so you could actually
Mhm.
see him and stuff. Those back shots are often are something's left to be desired with them. So
That's great.
I like being able to see him in that one.
so by number 3 and number 2, I've kind of been a toss up with. So I'm going to say, I'll just say this is my number 3, but it could go either way. This is X-Men number 125. And I love
Awesome.
just the Phoenix aspect to this. And what I also love about the cover is how it's kind of like an homage to earlier Atlas era, or just really any of that golden age breaking the silver age, like monster stories where you have different panels telling you what's going on.
Mhm.
And this is it's kind of an homage but still part of that era. So the fact that you have, there's your Phoenix in the middle, but then you have it split up. There's what's going on in Mirror Island and what's happening in the Danger Room, and you have that plus more going
Yeah, it
on.
works so
So
well with the flames kind of like, burning out to show the what's
yeah,
happening over
it's
there.
just a really
So fun.
clever cover, and you got
Mhm.
my multiple man and Polaris on the cover there, so that's fun. And yeah, I just really appreciated the whole silhouette of Jean just kind of blowing up through there, and this is kind of really the thing that kickstarted, I feel,
Mhm.
the Dark Phoenix run.
Yeah, yeah.
So it has that for it, but
Yeah, the
Definitely.
way that they can space, it's like the one time where you add like those extra panels on the cover to see what's going on in these other things, and it works. Like the composition works really well.
Yeah, it's
ain't
a
no
really,
Avengers 10, that's for sure, or Avengers
really,
Annual.
really
Hey,
cool
now
way to
you
do
watch your
that.
mouth.
Really cool way to do that compartmentalized um approach, but in like
Yeah,
a totally fresh new way. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I really just appreciate what he's doing there. So I mean, you can't mention Dave Cockrum without mentioning my number two book, which everybody knows is X-Men number 101. And I just love that this book is,
Awesome.
I mean, obviously there's a lot to say about this cover. It has the X-Men just drowning there. I love Storm and Cyclops' reaction to the cover, and Jean just like, I'm Phoenix, that's how she said it in the book too.
Yeah,
Um, don't you
Yeah, I
know?
always think of the cartoon when she goes, "Oh, I
Uh,
am Phoenix," and that like her voice is so loud and stuff.
yeah,
That's
and
what
then
I always.
Rogue's doing her like blood curdling scream in the background. Yeah.
yeah.
This is actually my only book in the entire series where the cover's attached. I got this for a steal. I found a buyer on Instagram that I got this from. So the
Nice.
cover's attached on it, but outside of that, every other book in my collection is fully intact. But
Mhm.
just because this was like, I'll just say it was under $100 for this book. So I was like,
Word.
okay, sure, it's full,
Prime,
it's complete, just the
Yeah,
cover's
that
attached.
counts. That
Yeah,
prime,
counts. Yeah.
prime candidate for the upgrade once you finish the run, right?
for
So,
sure,
yeah.
exactly. So I couldn't turn down a book at this price. This book at
Oh,
that
great.
price. So
Love it.
It's a great
yeah,
book.
that's definitely my number two. Well, no, I don't know, guys. What would you
Oh
say is your number one?
wow,
Wow,
Like
nine
this
eight,
is
Mikey G.
Mikey
this.
G scored a 9.8 of
Hot
this.
damn.
Congrats, man. That's awesome.
So this is my two and three. They're so similar to one another. I just don't know which one to. But
I think you picked the right order.
okay.
Two, two is just an incredible.
My number one book is my number one because I do. You asked me earlier what my favorite I guess issue is, or maybe it was favorite cover. I don't know, but this
Yeah.
really is in my top favorite covers of all time. It is quintessential X Men in my opinion. It is also part of the thumbnail that you made. This is X Men number
I
98.
love that. I love that.
And I love the colors on it. I love the little Kirby crackle going on in the corners there. I love that the Sentinels are, well, they're back, but all the X Men are taking on the Sentinels. The Sentinels are crushing the X Men.
It's
And
good.
like when I think of what X Men is, this cover is that. This is, you can't get any more X Men than this cover, and I just think Cockrum nailed it with this cover. Um, and the colors to it too. I really wish that they explained who or let us know who did the colors to this. But it's just, this is my number one by a long shot for Cockrum. Like there was, as soon as you gave me that list, and I was like, all right, I'm doing Cockrum. This was nailed down as my number one
Yeah,
without
right on.
That
question.
was one of
That is
my
a cool
first.
choice.
That was one of my first books I bought slabbed, and I adore that cover. I'm
It
Yeah.
was
with
good
you
on a
on
great
that.
wall.
It's such a nice book.
Yeah,
I love the Sentinels. I just everything. It's great.
yeah. So there's my list.
Great list.
Thank you.
Great
Great
list.
list. Yeah. Man, can't go wrong. All right. I didn't really put mine in a particular order. And it's funny, like there's like a few covers like that I was like, oh shit, it's not John Byrne. Like
You know
like,
what? I was thinking the same thing when I was going through books on myself, because I went through the Byrne era and I'm like, oh, that wasn't Byrne. That wasn't Byrne. And
yeah.
it was like, oh, Byrne's actually a little bit harder than I thought it would be.
He still has like pretty much anyone that he did do is incredible.
True.
So, okay. So I've shown this one so many times. Like, I'm not numbering them, but this is what I got for this one. Is I just absolutely love 115. Sauron is like one of my favorite villains. The Dr. Carl Lycos, like, being possessed. Like, I didn't mean to do it. Like, I just love that like werewolf style. Like,
wasn't me.
And then he's like he's a dinosaur that can control your mind and like suck your life energy. It's just so cool. And like this battle, is, and like some of the panels that they have in there, like with storm bathing and like, like it's just there's just incredible panels.
Is that
Yeah.
the issue where Wolverine and Cyclops duke it out too, or is that the issue?
Like he mind controls Wolverine. Like Wolverine attacks Storm, and it also has that iconic like, let's just take it out. Yes, I know that we're not.
Let's look at
cracking the freshness.
All right, so you got, the splash page already. Like,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So much going on right here. Wolverine lunging to Storm's rescue, and then have that double splash, iconic Wolverine shot. So and then he mind controls him, and it's a whole thing. And so, dude, and like just the way that the Sauron's arms are just like, taking over everybody.
Oh, give me a second.
It's almost as if he's controlling all three of them. Like it's
mind controlling Wolverine.
Creating this arena around them.
I had this out already, so just coincidentally, there's but like that reminds me of that cover, but just reversed in a way.
Yeah. Another awesome thing that book reminds me of, the final splash page on the book that precedes it, is the one when he's got Rogue and he's like staring at you as the viewer. Oh, I love that page too.
Oh yeah.
It's in the book prior to that one that leads into this book, and it's Sauron and he's got Storm and like
gotcha.
Like, Storm's drawn really sexy, but she's like out cold, and it's such a good page.
Oh,
you don't have to pull it out. It's just
actually, it was my honorable mention right here. So we might as well.
So that book here. There was my first early X-Men book. Like, I always had modern books, and that was my first early X-Men book. And is that a 12 pence? That looks like it.
That is a 12 pence.
It is.
Also, I don't know if you guys knew this, but that book is issue 114, and that's the first one. It was called Uncanny X-Men. But in New X-Men, that Grant Morrison run, that was renamed in issue 114 as well. Yes, that is great.
That's the one. I love that page.
Is that what you're talking about? And then there may be a panel before that where he hostess ad, of course.
In the UK.
Oh gosh, yeah. Look at Storm's face on the. Oh yeah, and there you go, sucking the life force out of you. So okay, that was an honorable mention just because of the just the way that they're all. It's actually kind of a lame one. Let's be honest. That's why it was an honorable mention. I think I was just like, I've always been attracted to like the ghosts behind. Are they dead? Of course they're not. But all right. Next one. Now that I'm like cheating and throwing stuff around. Here's another cheat that we all love to do. I can't decide which one is better because these go together with everything you got.
142 is a better one.
Oh, you know what? Here's the thing. This tells an entire story, like within it.
They're both
right. Like as far as like just the layout, the colors, the the way, the blast, it's so dramatic. Yeah, I agree.
Everybody
Visually,
dies.
this is stunning, and I love the way that this tells a story within the
Sure.
cover. So that's why I love both of those.
Everyone does die, and
Yeah.
it's not lying.
Yeah, there's no ghosts on that cover.
That's when like shit starts to go like, oh, but it's just another reality. Like, and then you're like, oh, okay, like we're gonna do that now.
And the comic book world's never been the same.
Exactly,
If
100%.
you read
All
the
right.
previous one, you already knew that, anyways.
This one, I'm not like a huge like. I know a lot of people are big fans of the Proteus, couple issue saga, if you will. But I've always been attracted to this issue as well. The swirls, the colors, these guys in the background, ghostly, like nothing they can do. The colors, it's all about the colors in this one.
Matches your shirt,
dude. Yeah, no, that's why I brought it. That's why I brought it. All right,
great
that's
book.
all I have to say about that. Okay, and then just if it weren't for that,
Yeah, I know.
But
I mean, it's
there
there, so you got to appreciate for what it is. But I mean,
it's true if it weren't for that, but it is there, right? And I
it
just
is there.
I can't get by those stupid banner ads.
But I mean, dude,
so unfortunate because that would be such a cool cover if it was.
And the
just
writing in the story too, like for what it represents too. I mean, it's just such a.
That's one of those books where the background has a lot going for it too. Like I always like have to be reminded they're not on Earth. Like, look, Earth is in the background. They're on the moon.
Yeah,
it's just such a cool action.
I just think like how much more cool detail could they have gotten in there if they didn't have that dumb banner at the top?
I know.
Thank goodness that didn't last long.
Only impacted one of the most important books of the X-Men world.
True, but
so that's pretty rad. And then a couple other
minor books. Yeah,
great cover.
Expecting that one.
But then this was my last one on the pick.
Oh,
that would have been my first pick.
Yeah,
that's his best cover. I love it. That and maybe 142, like between those two.
Yeah. There you go. Green again with the green covers. Look at you guys in your green rooms. So we got what is it?
That's a great question.
Yeah, it is the homage to that.
I wonder whoever won that bike ad.
You got your homage here, right?
Yes.
Very nice.
The living monolith. Shout out to that's Neil Adams.
Yeah, Neil Adams right here.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like that's Neil Adams.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Totally. Because he did like the 58 just a couple issues later. I think when did he jump on exactly? I don't know.
I always kind of mess up that era. Sometimes I think it's a Neil Adams and it's not, but
he jumped on like at around issue 58, 59.
But yeah, that's
thank you for.
I thought 133 would have been like more prominent showed here, like that Wolverine cover, because I always have considered that one to be one of the more in demand, popular Byrne covers. So I'm surprised that wasn't really.
Yeah, I guess there was just so many, and I mean, it is because there's just so many good ones, and so that's why I had to mention it, but I had to cut it off somewhere, and this this is I mean, so it's Wolverine. Everybody loves Wolverine. I mean, or you hate him, right? I mean, yes, he's in every X-Men thing. You get sick of him, but I mean, it's freaking Wolverine, and this is like the first issue where he's just takes on hordes of guys, scares them, and then like kills them. And so that's just like it's just ninja-y and brilliant, and he's just like it's so cool.
It's an iconic cover for sure.
That last panel from the issue before that, where he's like turned up, ready to.
Oh, the
Turn off.
sewer shot.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody loves that. It's so good.
Man.
I absolutely love that. That might be one of my absolute most favorite, just like singular panels ever.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so
Who'd you pick?
my assignment was picking from the field essentially, other than Cochrane and Bird, which was difficult. It's a lot of books, and somehow I ended up like all kind of breaking my own rule, because I picked my honorable mention as well as my number 5 are technically after Claremont's left, but it's still within like the Jim Lee era, so I kind of felt like it could still be in. But this is my honorable mention, and I feel like I've heard people hate on this, and I just don't understand. This cover is so dynamic, cool. I love the angle. I love the motion, the speed of it.
Because Angel's in it. That's why
I
everybody
like
hates
the
it.
green background. I just think this is like an incredible cover. This is by Jim Lee. One of the hit. This is like might be his last cover he ever did on Uncanny, because this was during the adjectiveless X-Men run. So he was just popping in to do a cover, I guess.
Do
So
you
that's
think
my,
that Colossus is nude with boots in that?
I like to think he's got something on.
Okay.
But
I like to think that he doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
each their own.
That's the great thing about that art. You can just use your own imagination.
That's what art's all about.
To your interpretation, you know.
All right, so this I just like this cover is just incredible.
Yes, Will Sportasio.
290, Will Sportasio.
Yes.
Scott Williams inks. Just amazing. I don't know if Scott Williams inked the cover. It's hard to sometimes find the cover credits versus the interior credits, but it's definitely a Will Sportasio cover, and he did the interiors, and Scott Williams is definitely the interiors, but probably also the inks on the cover. But I mean, just an incredible cover. Like Storm looks gorgeous, and the rain
hitting
it's just a really well done cover. I like, and you'll see in another one I have here, like getting close up to the characters is a really, I think, a nice choice on a lot of covers. It just makes for a really interesting cover art. So that's number 5.
That's quintessential Storm right there too. Like when you think of Storm and her loving nature, and like that is Storm. If there's like that is the Storm cover of the X-Men series, in my opinion.
Just like in awe of her, of like the power of nature, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like she's in tuned with it. Like it's a very, you're right. It's a very totally Storm as you would think of Storm. But I also just I like that she's in a ponytail too, which is not a look she rocks a lot, which I find more attractive in this one. Sure. So pretty cool. Funny enough, you know, I said up to the Jim Lee era, but then as I was going through this, I started thought I'm gonna cut out adjectiveless X-Men and just do Uncanny, because I could honestly almost fill it up with covers from Jim Lee's 1 to 11 run. I just love that. So I felt like I was kind of taking it easier on me to cut that out and making it Uncanny only. But then, funny enough, I ended up not having any Jim Lee covers other than that honorable mention, just because I just went to different books. And I think his best X-Men work was during that 1 to 11. Anyways, this next one is been kind of hot this year, and it's
baby.
Mark Silvestri 251. It's just such a cool cover. I mean, and the colors are incredible. it feels so like my childhood too, like 90s, like neons and stuff like that. It's
Steaming skulls.
steaming skulls in the rain. It's so funny because this feels cold to me, like, and this is in the book, in the story, he's in the Australian desert and like the sweltering heat, but this actually feels kind of more like ice cold. This feels like a cold environment. Anyways, it's
Yeah, I always thought that was like rain, but now that you mention it, is it not rain? Is it like just like the way that it's like the artistic style of the drawing? Like,
I think it's the way Silvestri kind of did the background. It does feel kind of like rain,
yeah. But now that you mention that, you're right. It's in like the desert, and
it's supposed to be in the desert. Yeah,
yeah, that's cool.
But nonetheless,
makes you think. Another one that makes you think. Ryan,
amazing cover.
Silvestri loves his lines. What can we say?
All right, so this next one, you brought the Proteus cover. Great set of books. I brought 128.
Oh,
and this is a George Perez
oh
cover, and I just think it's like it's so incredibly done. Just the way the buildings are warping and the bricks are full. It really feels like a trip, which is what they experience in this book. Like Proteus really is kind of like a big acid trip gone wrong, and this cover really brings that to life. Like everything feels like it's liquidy and melting and
yeah, even like when you look deep into the buildings, like down on the horizon there, it's like they're like waves crashing in.
It feels like wobbly, and you know what I mean? It's so really well put together. The colors are excellent. The characters look great. And I mean, George Perez is a master. It's unfortunate we didn't get more George Perez on X-Men, to be honest, because he really, it was such an incredible artist.
He did 112 also, right?
The Wolverine stabbing.
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah, the Wolverine stabbing himself, right?
So that's my number 3. And then this one, probably one of the most classic X-Men rivalries. If it's got probably it is, and that is 213. But I don't know if people really think about this cover as much as like the 222 cover. But this one is the best one, I think. Like, it's so tight in, like you're tight quartered with these guys. You can feel the tenseness of their battle, of their hatred for each other. It's just like really well drawn. Like I just love the way the characters look. And again, like talking about that Storm cover, getting in tight on the characters, you just feel like you're right in there, and you feel it a little bit more. And I just really like this this book. It's
really claustrophobic, and there's no background at all shown. Like it literally is all body.
You're right in there. Like you could get get scratched at any moment. Like it's just and it's Eric fit in. Alan Davis cover too, who again an artist that doesn't really get talked about much, but he really did an incredible job on this.
To be able to fit in both of their full heads and both of their hands within that tiny frame, it's impressive.
Wolverine is small.
Love it.
He'll fit right in the.
All right. You already mentioned it.
The Perez. Sure.
Perez 112. Now, I made this one. I honestly could change my mind 100 times.
Sure.
There's so many books that I even said when I finished pulling these 5, I was like, I could make another 5 and argue that those are the top 5. Honestly, like there's just so many covers to choose from. It was hard to leave 221 out. It was hard to. There were a bunch that were hard to leave out, but I've always just been really drawn to this cover. It sticks out to me, especially where it lands in the issue numbers. Like it's right in that Cockrum to Byrne era, and but you could feel it's someone different. But it's just, I don't know. I really like the way Perez drew this cover. I really think it's a beautiful character piece. And funny, when I was looking into this actually started from a rough sketch Cockrum did for the cover. He gave it to Perez, and then Perez brought it to final stages.
I could see that because, like, I always was interested with both Storm and Wolverine's faces, as they are very Cockrum-like faces.
Yeah.
And, like, the action is clearly Perez, but I've always noticed their faces didn't feel like Perez, and just the reaction, like Wolverine's bright eyes and just his grimace there, like, and Storm, that just looks like Cockrum. But that's interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, so he's credited on the art as well, but it is considered to be an iconic Perez cover
For sure.
when you look at certain credits. But yeah, he's credited on it as well. So
yeah, it's so great.
And I gotta say too, like with a lot of the books at the early stages of the Claremont era, one person who doesn't get talked about enough, who was on all of these artists, whether it be Cockrum or Byrne covers, is Terry Austin. I don't know if Terry Austin was not on this one, but he's on like so many of all the books you guys showed, and he's also a big part of all those amazing pieces of cover art over those eras. So that's my top 5.
Yeah.
So I wanted to actually ask, what would you say is your now I'm blanking on the question.
No pressure, it's only live.
Yeah, no pressure, it's only live.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask about a new book, but I forget now. Damn it.
Backing boards.
Save me, Dan.
Back to backing boards. So when do you decide the Mylar is good for you, and the double backing board? Or the
that's
board?
A conversation. I was trying to remember, what were we talking about before we went? No, because you were like, I love having these conversations. I was like, and then
you can't remember. You can't remember.
We were in the middle of the questions. I was like, what was that conversation we were having before we went live? We were just talking about bags and boards and how
we're like, this is what the people want, right?
Derek and I love our 56-point Comic Pro line boards. And I'm pretty much like all about Mylar and those thick boards, but I'm slowly like working my way through my X-Men run to
also
replace all the
painter's tape. Get rid of the scotch.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I say painter's tape, but you got to put it sideways. You got to,
I tried the sideways method and it drove me crazy.
I guess you just do what works for you, right?
No,
I noticed you gave me a couple books, and you a terrific one, Dan, and your tape was crooked.
I will always
my OCD was like,
oh really?
I like I don't even like
is the way to go, Ozzy.
I don't even like ripping the tape. I like cutting it so it's like a nice clean cut.
I like that better too, but I will rip it, but I will be upset if I don't. If I rip it like that, I might like try to re-rip it like with my pinchy fingers. That's pretty good though. I'd leave that one. But yeah, mine are all like that, and then I put the condition on the.
It depends on if I'm lazy. If I'm lazy, I'll just rip it. But
just you said you put the condition on them. So way back in the day, I went through all my books and I put a little sticker at the back here, writing down what I thought the condition was, and before comic book apps were a thing and such.
Yes.
I found that at the end of the day, I would end up throwing ripping those stickers off, because I learned, and I mean, you maybe are enough.
No, I know exactly where you're going. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, after like a couple years, I went back and looked at my books. I'm like, you know what? I don't agree with my grade. I want to get rid of this. I don't agree with what I said here. I have to reevaluate everything. I find I do that all the time. Yeah.
I still do that, but I'll tell you, like for example, when I first got my very first Secret Wars 8, I rated it like a 7, and then I got it graded at 9.6. So it's like I didn't know what I was doing, and and I
Does
still
CGC know
don't.
what they're doing?
I still don't. And that's why it's like I'll put this now, but like later I might like see something or be like, why did I give this a near mint minus? Let me look at it again. Maybe it's a near mint, or like
Right.
or I was grading it, and like sometimes in your head you think like you're already like, well, with the press it could be this.
Yes.
And you're like, no, it's not that. Like and you have to bump it down.
I feel
So
that.
stuff like that happens all the time, right? But
Yeah.
it's just a reference point, and it's part of something that I actually like really love doing, like just fondling through, looking at it, condition, kind of like looking around at the flaws. I just find a lot of peace in that. That's one of my favorite things to do.
It's very cathartic to do. I agree.
Mm.
You said you use CLZ.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do it like meticulously, like tracking your collection? Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
have everything graded, priced in there. I have it linked with cover price as well. I have the notes and why things I grade are the way they're graded, what I paid for the book, so I can see if I made a stupid decision. I mean, most of it is a stupid decision, but here I am.
that
I hear you.
like, and you just decided to do that one day and you started logging all your stuff in type thing, or
Yeah, I did it 2, 3 years ago, and I spent a good portion of about 3 days. Like I have, I'm gonna say around, if not slightly under 1,000 books. Given that nearly 500 of them is Uncanny X-Men. And I went through, and the thing was the complicated thing was going through and grading all your books because I was going to link it with cover price to then find out the values of those books, and that was the most difficult part of the whole thing. Well, cataloging it was one thing, and it was fun to do, but then to somehow come up with a somewhat of a reasonable grade then was the next difficult part. So
Mhm.
it was kind of I did it in multiple stages over a couple of months. So
Yeah.
yeah, see, like I kind of wanted to do something like that when I started logging in on cover price
mhm.
and making some notes and stuff like that, but like I just never kept up with it. And then you sell books and you bring more
Yeah,
back
you bring more
like,
in and you forget to go on the
over
app and
time.
like
And then like I signed up for CLZ with the idea like, oh yeah, I'll do it all on CLZ, but like the task of cataloging
yes.
everything from scratch, and like I'm pretty sure I have over 1,000 comic books. I honestly don't even know how many I have now. And
With the app,
More
you
than,
would.
more
it
than that.
yeah, but like I don't know, like it just still seems so daunting.
It is.
Um
It is.
yeah, so
Yeah,
like
you definitely have to do it in like pieces. I don't catalog mine anymore because I keep doing the same thing. Like I'll write it all down somewhere and then get a whole bunch of new stuff, forget what came in or out, and then
exactly.
So
but I want to do something like that. That's
So I
why I
just
do
gave
that.
up.
if it helps, like what I do, because yeah, like there'd be days where I come back with a ton of books. I'm like, oh, geez, what am I going to do with all this? I do have a section where I just like books to be cataloged. And in the app as
There you
well, I
go.
did make a video about this, by the way, on my channel. You can have tabs at the. I don't know if I'll show that. This will show properly, but at the bottom, yeah. So there's the app itself. It's not going to come out too clearly, but you can have different apps. So there's my X-Men category.
Mhm.
Oh my god. I have so all comics, X-Men, trade paperbacks, graphic novels. So I have
So,
them all tabs within the app so I don't have to be overwhelmed by an entire laundry list of comic books like
but
that. I can
also
just
like
have
when you're doing this, this is like your rich or like I wouldn't not a ritual, but like this is like your system. Like when you bring in a new comic, like you sit down to process it as far as like giving it a grade, grading it, and
yes, but I may
because
not do it immediately. So
what's
I'll
that?
set the I may not do it immediately. I'll set the book aside and I'll get to it eventually to put it in or to take something
Gotcha.
out. But yeah. And the
Gotcha.
thing is having the app with me, I can also do live checks on books and see that's the great thing with linking with cover price. I feel like I'm shilling here for CLZ or Z.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
I go
It's
to a
okay,
con
man.
I see a book and I go, well, that seems really high, and I'll check it on the app, and it links with the cover price, and I'm like, well, actually, trends are saying that this book's dropping in price, and that price is way too high. I'm not going to pay that price. So it's like that saves me money in that regard too, because I have instant knowledge about what everything is, and I do a lot of research, but
Mhm.
having it with you is very invaluable. Plus, I don't have to walk around with Excel spreadsheets anymore going, "Do I need this book?" Like, no, it's
Yeah.
all in the app.
Yeah,
Saves me time.
to have a one place where you yeah, you're right. This sounds like a fucking commercial now.
You
It must
too,
be
with a
really
simple
convenient to have it
subscription
all
of
in one place.
$29.90.
What did you call this app again?
It's CLZ.
With 4 simple payments of $5.99.
Yeah. And if you use our promo code, you can
Yeah.
save 5%. All right,
Yeah,
so
Oh,
like in the
oh, wait,
chat.
there's more.
yeah. All right.
Yeah, there
All
is
right.
more. There's so much in there. It's
Okay.
wild. And
But that's the important part is sitting down, like making the time to be like, I'm gonna first evaluate the grade and the condition of the comic to make sure that I don't have to return the comic, right? When you buy it online, right?
yeah.
And then, assessing the grade, the documenting it. Yeah. As long as you're used to that.
Yeah, and like it also you can separate them. Like I really wish I could just turn it around and show you guys, but like you can separate. Like I have my slab books in there, and they're differentiated even with the cover price link. So if you have there's raw and there's graded prices in cover price, and that translates in CLZ. So you can have your two
Eric's
different price points and see your two different get two different prices for whatever you're trying to buy or whatever it is you're trying to sell. It
Well,
saves.
Eric from SideQuest Comics agrees that it is the best app in the world and everybody should download it.
Yeah.
And I would think that
Right.
Ryan, if you're overwhelmed with documenting, but you do want to document it, I'd say everything that starts coming in from now, you start to document. Don't worry about the back stuff. But as you're motivated, like, hey, I could sit down and document a few things, put in, your biggest books or whatever books you feel like, get around to the other stuff as you go.
And the
I'm
thing
just
is,
not motivated.
Yeah, neither
the
am
thing
I.
is,
I'm not
once
going
you
to do that shit
start
either.
though, and you start, and especially if you link it with cover price, and you start seeing like, hey, I just put my 9.8 in, and look, oh wow, I can see the value of it instantaneously. I want to do the next book and see what that's worth. I want to do the next book and see what that's worth.
I would get
And
so addicted to that.
it is addicting. I
Yeah.
have it. It's literally on the homepage of my phone.
It's like
the most.
stocks. You just be like looking at it every day, like
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm already like hyper obsessed with like that stuff.
I feel like it would have been super depressing over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's been so like my
Totally
X-Men
like that.
1 has dropped thousands of dollars, and it's been like, man, like again, I should have sold it back then because like I could
Yeah.
have bought the same book like 3 times over
I know.
had I sold it over COVID. But so be it.
Yeah.
And then but thank goodness you didn't buy it right then, right?
Of course, yeah. That's the
How do
joy
you
of
know
being a
though?
collector.
Like
Yeah, you don't yeah,
everything's 2020 in hindsight, right? But
for sure.
it's I mean, I'm sure a lot of people made a pretty good killing. I will say this. I will say this. Like, if that ever popped off again like that, I would sell.
Sure.
But then everybody's thinking that, and that's actually the
Now
time
that
to
I know, like,
use, man.
if there was ever a big pop off like that again, I think I'd sell the whole thing, and I'd just start over. It would be fun. It would be fun to start over, to be honest.
Yeah, enjoy the chase again.
And just have all that money. Just tucked,
This is new information. We could go on a whole thing onto that.
The trick is to like when, right? Like you
like
also got.
You mean as far as like your long term?
Well, like when do you sell off? Like it pops off. When at that height are you going to sell, right? And like
peak.
Yeah, but like when
obviously,
yeah,
that's
a silly question.
It might still keep going up, and I think that's what else.
But it takes so long, like to sell. Like if you're going to sell it the way that we sell, like just like a book at a time here and there, it's like it's gonna take years, and you probably are just gonna steadily sell them as you go, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would
slowly
depend.
sell the ones you don't care about or that you want to use the money for something else.
I mean, yeah, I say I'd sell it all. I mean, it would depend obviously on how long the the height or the hype of whatever's going on in the market would take. But like, I honestly would probably, I'd put all my big books up like for auction
Yeah.
or whatever, and then I'd sell everything else on like a whatnot, whatever everybody's buying on, I'd go on there and I'd just sell everything off. Like,
because your goal is to have all the big Marvel keys, right? Are you still thinking that, or are you saying right now that like you would just get it? You're cool with getting rid of it all and then just starting with a clean slate. Don't let these other books tell you what runs you should keep collecting because you're so close to it. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, what I'm saying is I would probably sell it all off and then wait for it to eventually drop again, and then I'd go ham with all that money I had, like
yeah, if you had a crystal ball,
if you look at history, this happens over and over again.
Yes, it does.
In a sense, like I don't know if it'll ever happen quite like it did with COVID, like because that was a very like short window, but like there will be a time where our comics get really high again, and then they'll probably dip.
I don't know. Moon Knight #1's still a $1 book for me, guys. I don't know why that thing's still in double-digit territory. That thing does not need to be $20.
Because it had a show. It had
a show,
but man.
But I mean, I'm still waiting for that book to come down. Like that should be back down to single digits at this point. Like, come on.
Well, then, what's your take on it then? Like, do you think that it'll never go all the way down to that, or do you think we're still going to slide way more?
So I'm going to get hugely philosophical here with this.
Love it.
Brace yourselves.
This is
my neighborhood.
This is his fuel.
Well, comic books are entirely speculative market, of course. The thing is that we have a lot of people who are getting into it now, and books that should not be valued are valued because of nostalgia purposes. So an example, that Moon Knight #1. In my opinion, the Jim Lee books aren't worth any more than double digits, like low, like $10, $15, maybe if that. Like I feel that's still too generous because there's millions of copies of those books out there. But it's a nostalgia thing that does make those books appear to be worth more than what it is. And at some point, there's going to be a realization that, hey, that's not the case, or there's too many of these books on the CGC census or something. But that extends further to the Golden Age too, because the Golden Age, people collect that. Like I collect it because I like horror books, and I do like some historical stuff with comic books as well. But at some point, like the Catman comics or Blue Beetle or something like that, they won't be worth what people want them to be worth anymore, because at the end of the day, you have to be a diehard collector to want something like that. And if the demand isn't there, which right now the demand is all these boomers or older people who want these books for their nostalgia purposes, once they pass away, then you're left with people maybe like me that I like some old books, but then the demand for those books dwindle, and then the prices of those drop too, and they're not going to go back to their 10-cent price tags. But where is comic book collecting 50 years from now?
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, it almost seems like there's more room to run with Pokemon cards just because of the generation that's into it, kind of a thing. And
for sure,
you're of the mindset that it's like we got like 30 years or something, and then we're going to start to see, that's
it's going to crash.
I've heard that theory as far as like that we are kind of like the last generation or like of our age, 30,
maybe,
40,
yeah.
50. Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this, like, I'm definitely not in it for the long-term speculative flip thing. Like, I'm in it because I like comics and I like collecting. I like collecting. I like having stuff. I like having this stuff. So, if I had to go all the way to the end and it didn't gain value, like, I guess you could say I could have put my money into other things that would have been more lucrative, but like I'm doing something I enjoy and I love, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's a valid point to saying like, okay, yeah, like the Golden Age books maybe are a little nostalgic to a certain generation, but like I feel like there's a lot of people who jumped on Golden because it's also kind of like it's antique, it's very old, right? Like it's rare, and I think you're always going to have that. Like that's why antiques are valuable. You know what I mean? Like old the older stuff gets not everything, but some things will always, I think, be valuable, and that's why like those big keys will all they're those IPs will still be around in 50 years, I would imagine. And I think there still will always be some people looking for it, right? Like
but not like looking for X-Men 4 and 5, like from the adjective list. Like, I mean, somebody, but it's like
I'm not maybe not those, like, but I don't know, maybe, who knows? Like, maybe
no, there will be somebody,
maybe in 40
I
years they'll be on to like the X-Men movies will be over will be gone for a decade or two, and they decide let's reboot X-Men really hard in a really big way in like 3D virtual reality, whatever's going on, that, and people go crazy for it. And then you get
what if it's not relevant, right?
Comics. Like, I just feel like it's gonna happen again in some capacity.
Well,
at some point.
I think that's also part of this, maybe our younger generation, like people younger than us, with the fear of missing out. Because another book that drives me crazy that's expensive right now is that X-Men 251. And again, there's hundreds of thousands of copies of that book out in the market. And, at the peak of that Deadpool movie, it was what, like $100, $150 it was going for, something like that. And, that hill has now subsided. It's tanking. And I think that a lot of FOMO is what does create drive for books. And because we're now in this world of instant gratification, we have Instagram sellers right away. Everybody is buying books right off the bat, which does, jack up the prices. There's your FOMO again. And people then start, panic buying or panic selling. And, say there is no X-Men movie for the next 20 years and another one appears. Is FOMO still going to be a thing 20 years from now?
Of course it will.
But is it though?
FOMO in general, it's always been a thing, right?
But to the degree that it is now, because okay, I mean,
but maybe not for X-Men and maybe not for comics.
Sure,
but I think that FOMO will always be everybody's thing. I mean, tulips, right?
You say.
What about tulips?
The
yes, I know the
tulips. Back in the day, there was a bunch of tulips, and people started jacking up the prices because everybody's like, "Oh, these tulips are worth a bunch of money." I don't know. I'm the worst person to tell this story, but you guys know the tulip story, right?
We're Canadian. We have to know about tulips.
I've never heard about this tulip story.
Oh gosh, you guys are Canadian. Okay, great. Okay, well, it's like a Netherlands thing.
No,
right?
yeah. Well, I mean, we are, because Netherlands gives Canada like millions of tulip bulbs every year.
Okay, well,
I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
They grew tulips. They would always sell out. This is the basic idea. They would always sell out, so then the price would get higher because like people would pay a premium, and then people started to buy them to speculate or to grow them to speculate. So they grow big farms, grow up all these tulips because they knew it would sell for a bunch of money, and eventually the supply just outweighed the demand. The price of tulips crashed, but so many people put so much money into it and faith into this thing. It was total FOMO, right? I mean, that's my understanding of it. Like somebody's in here probably knows like the year, like there's probably like a year that it went down. It's a famous, just take my word for it, all right? Or Google, don't take my word for it. Google it or something. You'll see. My point is, people will always have FOMO. What you got there?
No, somebody asked, Make Room Collectibles asked at the chat, anyone know the story behind the angel wing tip on the X of the original X-Men 7? And I was like, I don't see it, because I have X-Men 7 right here. And then I did notice it. It is right, glare. Hang on, because I gotta move this over here, change my background. We talked about it earlier. So right there is a drawing of a wing appearing. And no, I don't know the story behind it, but it does exist there.
I Googled it, and it's not on that. It's not on the the digital art from that book.
It is on the CLZ app as well.
I
can't zoom in on this thing, unfortunately.
Okay,
I thought that was actually drawn.
Thank you. I'm not crazy.
I thought that was drawn on the cover, and I thought
Oh,
somebody had drawn that. But you're telling me that that's on all the other covers, and given that's on the app, then I guess that is interesting. No. Then I look at X-Men 3. Oh, I don't have X-Men 3. I don't have all the X-Men books. What's on X-Men 3?
I don't have 3. That's the one I can.
I have 5
is
and
that
1,
right? I didn't know there was a purpose behind them. I thought that was just all speculation.
not on 5.
Well, I'm gonna have to come with my do my homework next time. Well, what do you think, Ryan? Should we let Derek into the council?
I do think he will be gaining admittance to the council, which also means you get to join our Council of X chat. So there's always little X-Men things going on all the time in the chat. So welcome to that as well. You'll be added right after this. And
Thank you so much.
yeah, and then we're gonna have the Council of X. Our next meeting is gonna be we're kind of looking at the 14th, the Monday the 14th of October, but dates still TBD. And we're gonna do our Brotherhood of Evil Mutants draft, which would be, if you caught our X-Men team draft months back, was a lot of fun, really fun episode. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for that. And hopefully everybody watching tonight will be able to join us for that, because that was a really great time. Basically, we all pick our own teams of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. So
Oh yeah, Derek's already doing his research. I can tell.
kind of like a fantasy draft.
No, I'm just looking. Next October 14th is Thanksgiving Monday in Canada.
It is. So I don't know if that's a problem.
Wait, I thought
I have my family dinner on Sunday, so. But anyways, we haven't landed on the date yet. We'll see if that works.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But Derek, it's been awesome having you on the show.
Totally.
I appreciate
feel like
being invited.
We could have kept going on the tulips for a little bit longer, but you know.
God, I swear, you guys. All right.
No, I know that there is a tulip story about.
There's a tulip story.
I believe you. I believe you guys. There's some guys in the chat who seem to know about the tulips.
I don't know. Mikey G was trying to come to my rescue, but I'm not sure. If
we believe you, Dan. We believe you. I just want to say thanks to everybody for watching tonight. Had a great time chatting, and we will be back with more of these in the near future, as well as the council, of course. And I'm working on another, actually, like a live show. I'm not quite ready to unveil that yet, but that's coming down the pipe soon as well. So keep your eyes out for that, and videos and all that sort of thing. Actually, before we go, Derek, why don't you just plug your socials, your channel? I know you're going on a bit of a hiatus this month. Maybe let everybody know about that, but then when you'll be back and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. So Instagram, Uncanny Derek Comics. YouTube, Uncanny Derek Comics. I just had a video release on Sunday. It was my wife asking me a bunch of comic book related questions. She doesn't know anything about comic books, but she came up with some pretty good questions. So that's my last video for this short little hiatus. I'm just going to take the month of October off, but I will be back near the end of October with a Halloween episode. So then I'll be back to regular scheduled Uncanny Derek Comics.
And I mean, if you're into Halloween, you should probably watch that, because Derek, as he said, is a pre-code horror collector, so I'm sure there'll be some good looking horror books to included in that video. I think it's just my gut.
Oh, well, the pressure's on.
My gut feeling. So.
He'll be bringing it, guys, next time. Yeah,
very good.
So, yeah, make sure you sub up and follow Derek, and then of course, this guy's. Follow him on Instagram, and
I'm following you.
Watch him on my channel, and all that jazz. So thanks, guys, and until the next time, keep collecting.